Coming up on today's episode of the More Than Sunday podcast.
Every season in marriage is not equal. Yeah. There are different seasons. Seasons when you're first married, one of you has a career, both of you have a career, someone's unemployed, you're both unemployed, you start to have a family's turning into these are all super different seasons. And so just like a healthy thing ebbs and flows, conversation in marriage will ebb and flow too. We just get to be the stewards of keeping that headed in a healthy direction.
Yeah.
Welcome to the More Than Sunday podcast with lead pastor Scott Harris and your host Josh Rogers. Each episode, we aim to have honest conversations around daily living as a follower of Jesus outside of a church building. Thanks for joining us. Let's start the conversation.
Well, welcome to More Than Sunday. This is episode 10.
Yay, 10. Wow, that's something.
We did it.
Double digits.
I know. It feels like, I feel like we say this every episode, but that's because it feels like yesterday that we were like, hey, what if we did a podcast?
I know.
And then Corbin and I started making stuff, and that went okay for the set. Yeah. We have a few screws sticking out, so just if you're behind the set, be careful.
So here's the deal. So when we hit 13,
episode 13,
yeah, we need to, because that's kind of, we have two rites of passage for us in America, right? It's your 13th birthday,
right,
and it's your 18th birthday.
Yeah, and 21st.
Yeah, and 21st. Yes. So this is a first. Rite of passage is 10, but you kind of go low key. Your family acknowledge it, big deal.
Yeah, double
pretty
digits.
Excited. 13's big, so I think we need to figure out a party for our 13th when we become teenagers.
I like
in
it.
The podcast world.
Teenage podcast.
Yeah, we'll get sassy, a lot of attitude. I'm not going to talk to you for long stretches of time.
Yeah, multiple energy drinks.
Yeah, I'm going to have to convince you to come out of your room. It's going to be wonderful.
Miss those days. Miss those days. Hey, if you have been tuning in and listening, we just want to say thank you. Scott and I enjoy talking with each other a lot, but this is also made possible because you guys keep tuning in. And so we want to keep having conversation and sort of getting behind the scenes of what, for the two of us, it looks like just to walk life. We get these moments on Sundays where we have kind of this curated experience, and we've prepped a sermon and we've prepped songs, but this is sort of the everyday More Than Sunday, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. What does it look like to put these things into just a daily rhythm where it's just one step in front of the other?
Yeah, well, it's really where we live most of our faith out. Mm-hmm. Like you just said, these ideas of scripted and practice and settings, church, Bible studies, whatever, even life group. Most of the time, we're just people who love Jesus around other people who love Jesus or might not, and we live our life out. So, if I have a hope and prayer, is that this really is just, again, conversations with people who love Jesus. So, an opportunity for those who don't get to have these conversations with us. Yeah. To be able to do that, and in future, we'll have different guests and stuff on. So, that's
a bit of a sneak peek.
I did that. You see that?
Leaky Leakers on episode 10. We're working on what it looks like to have some guests on.
Yeah, and I think it's fun. Incredible to hear and just have more casual conversations with people who love Jesus that are part of the Northshore family.
Yep, absolutely. Some of the things that we've did some digging into rest. Yeah. And prayer and relationships and community. We're constantly thinking and praying about, what new topics. We have a list of things we've put on there. If you as a listener have something that you'd like to hear us talk about, again, shoot that information over to us at morethansunday@northshorechristian.org. That's the email address. Shoot us an email. We'd love to hear some of the things that you guys would like to hear us talk about as we continue to shape these conversations for our local family here, as well as just those of you who are tuning in. So I'm excited about where we've been so far and what's coming ahead. Part of what is coming ahead is here in a day or two, you're headed on a journey.
Yes.
You're headed, we talked about it a little bit, but it's kind of here now, headed out on sabbatical.
Yes.
And I know you've had more time now to sort of prep and process what that could look like. Would you give us like a nugget or two of some things you're learning about rest? We've had these conversations, we've talked about this, but you're in a practicing mode right now.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I mean, rest, we only have so much time in a day, in a week. Mm-hmm. And there is an, endless number of things you could do. So you are going to get to Sabbath rhythm, mm-hmm. there will be far more no's versus yeses. So you have to get to those yeses that help you focus on Christ and be the best version of you for him. And of course, that's the best version of you for your family, for your work, your community, all those things. So it's this idea that, I have been searching for a month, and I'm getting Rico. You gave me advice. Let me give him a little peek behind the scenes. On my sabbatical is June and July, gearing up for that. You came to me at one point in time and said, hey, brother, remember to prepare for it. Don't wait for your Sabbath, but prepare for it. And so I took that to heart as great counsel. It was reinforced with some other people as I took your counsel that gave me that counsel as well. Some podcasts I listened to and preachers and teachers. So I've spent the month of May taking your advice and preparing. And so I have been doing a lot of no's to find the right yeses.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think, not to do a whole deep dive into this, but just to touch on it. One of my, I don't know if I've shared this in an episode, but one of my mentors, his name's Aaron Keyes. One of the things he talked to us about health and healthy lifestyle is when you look at rhythms of creation, a healthy river that flows has boundaries on its sides. Good. When you take those boundaries away, what happens is it ultimately becomes a swamp. Yeah. And generally those types of things that were living there can't live there anymore. And so it is, I think it's a great thought and piece of wisdom to think about how sometimes we actually may need more no's so that our couple yeses can have more space and be more valued and front and center.
Yeah. Well, we would be lying to ourselves if we say we have a large amount of yeses available. That is just not a truth. And so I believe that if you have too many yeses, they're really no's in disguise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you're doing damage to yourself and to your walk with the Lord and to those around you. And it takes a lot of discipline because, again, all of us have way more taps on our shoulders than we could say yes to.
Yeah.
So, no, I love it. It's good. I love that picture of the river. Swamp. As soon as you were getting into it, I thought I would call that a flood. There's no boundaries, and it was great destruction.
Right. Yeah.
Right, and we call it a disaster. Same is true in our life.
Yeah. Yep. That's good, man. Excited for you to have this opportunity.
I'm fired up. Yeah, really excited
to discover it. My I don't know if catchphrase is the right word, but when people ask, like, how was my sabbatical a couple years ago, I normally say, I think it's going to be the next 7 years until the next one of becoming what I learned in the first one.
It's good.
Super refining and like fire hose, and it's good. But while you're away, we're going to do, we got a few episodes in the works with some guests that I'm excited for those conversations and some of those topics we're talking about. We're going to talk about some family dynamics and worship coming up. And then we'll look forward to having you back when you're back. And then I think around that time is when we're going to try to potentially introduce a guest to our normal format with you and I. So I'm looking forward to those things. But today's episode 10, so we wanted to do something maybe a little bit different. I had great ambition to, have some kind of exciting party version, and that, the party is, You just bring the party, Scott.
No, come on.
So that's where we're at. Today, we were just talking like, hey, what if we did sort of a testimony episode? And as we were thinking about sharing stories, which, sidebar, I feel like we have to say, like, the takeaway from the first 10 episodes is the Scott, I have a story moment. So we'll be like coining that trademark, I have a story, Scott Harris.
Yes.
Look for that in the episodes to come.
Well, you know this, that is, if you hang with me very long, probably to a fault, I have a story for everything.
Yep. I love the stories. Yeah. So we were thinking testimony, we were thinking sharing story, and Scott texted me last night sometime while I was asleep and had the idea of kind of centering on marriage.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Maybe we just kind of kick it off sharing some of like our marriage stories. How did that come to be for you and Sandy, and what did that look like? Yeah,
it's good. So before I get into it, because I think the listener is probably noticing something different about us. We have just a little more swagger.
Yeah.
A lot of you listen to this, but if you're watching it, we're just kind of moving with more confidence. We said something kind of in passing last episode, that something about sponsor. I don't remember what we said. And someone put in the offering plate a note, and they left themselves anonymous. So whoever you are, but said you didn't have a sponsor, now you do, and
Come on,
they dropped
dude.
$100 to us. So we are officially sponsored by Anonymous.
Woo, come on.
And so anyhow, so no longer can we say we're not sponsored. We are sponsored, and I just feel different. Maybe that's in celebration of our 10th birthday.
I think it is.
Okay.
I think that was God's timing.
Okay, so
we get to just step into that confidence of being just the legitimacy that a sponsored podcast really has.
So we have to play this thing out big time. Okay. So I know I'm taking off, but can we put on this More Than Sunday, the sponsored podcast? Right, because I'm going to guess we'll never get another sponsor.
Yeah.
That's probably it.
Yeah,
but
on the image it'll just say sponsored by Anonymous.
Oh yeah, and on my sabbatical I will introduce myself as a sponsored podcast.
Yeah, you will.
So anyhow, back to marriage, right?
I
had to say
hold on. And you're going international.
Oh, I'm going international.
I mean, you're really taking this sponsored reach even farther than what we thought.
I know. I mean, we were having some fun talking about this new sponsorship. And, I heard one of you, Corbin, it might have been you or Josh, talking about merchandise. And it's going to be, this could be big. It's going to be huge. So how much merchandise can you buy for $100?
Hey, we toyed around with the idea too. We might, I can't promise this. So, if this doesn't happen, I apologize. But Scott's going to be traveling for like a month, some really cool places. I want to get some kind of like little audio blurb from you of just an update of some of the things you're experiencing that we can toss into an episode here somewhere while you're gone.
I'll do that. Yeah, we're trying to take notes, journal, and all the way. So I'll add that to it. So
sweet,
good. So the question was my marriage story.
Yeah, we're talking about stories, sharing testimony. Let's dig into marriage. I think it starts with, how did it happen? Where are we at?
Yeah, well, I was born in... but it's almost like that, right?
Yeah.
That's why I suggested the topic, because both of us have these young love stories.
We have the stories that you don't share in student ministry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, oh boy. So here's the deal. I first met Sandy, my wife. I actually saw her probably when I was about 7 or 8 years old.
And
actually, yep.
And knew immediately.
Yeah. That's why. No, I went trick-or-treating at a house, and the door opened up, and there was all these adults sitting around, having a Halloween party, and they yelled out to somebody, and here comes this cute little girl bouncing, dressed like a cat, and gave me candy. That was Sandy. Okay. So
hold on though.
Yes.
What kind of candy?
Oh boy, I don't even remember.
That's big.
Yeah. That cat was so cute.
Hey, that's fine.
There you go.
Blinded by the beauty of the cat.
Yes. And then she was across the hall in my, in third grade. So I saw her a lot because our teachers, sometimes do co-things. So then I was around her.
Yep.
Wasn't really friends because, back in there, your homeroom's your homeroom. And then, bumped into her a long time, and we started dating in 8th grade, so middle school, 8th grade.
Yeah.
Right in that, 14 years old. Okay, I know the age.
Yep.
So that is when we became official, but how we became official, this is important because there's a thread through all this, is I've never asked her on a date.
I got to take a note so I don't forget something. You keep going.
Okay. Meaning we just started hanging out, and now at this point, 41 years later, we haven't stopped. And there's a lot of moments between that. But the truth of the matter is I never asked her on a date. We just started hanging out. We had mutual friends, so we bumped into each other, started eating lunch together.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bought, so we didn't even know when to say, when did we start dating? But I bought her a teddy bear, okay, when she was 14 for her 14th birthday.
Well played.
And I was going to age us, but the Jackson 5 were really popular. Yeah,
they were great.
And so I gave her a teddy bear as a birthday present, and she named the bear Tito.
Yes, she did.
And for the record, that's Tito Jackson. We still have Tito. He is still alive. Yes, he has survived.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So there's our early story. And now, Josh, I know you have a young story too.
True.
And that's so we're two peas in a pod here.
True. So Courtney and I met at church camp.
I love this.
Yep. She was in, dude, I'm so bad at remembering things. Something like, I think she was in 4th grade. I was in 5th grade. I think it was either that or she was in 3rd grade and I was in 4th grade. But either way, our team, the way that the camp worked is you had like families that was like your tribe for the week at camp. And our family name was the Gentle Peaches. So really brought us together.
And who named you?
I don't know.
Okay,
probably our camp leader.
That's a whole other story.
That's
okay.
a whole other thing. Yep.
Gentle Peaches. Here we go.
Yeah, church camp. So I remember her, but come to find out years later, she had taken a bunch of pictures of me on her disposable camera. And so she got home and got it developed. And her mom was like, what are all of these pictures of this kid? My pictures were full of trees, so not helpful at all. Yeah. So we met there, went to different schools. I had attended the school she was at, but they asked me not to return. That's a story for another day. You have also a similar story. We'll come back to that at some point.
That's a good one someday.
And then we re-met in high school. She was super smart, so she was a couple grades ahead, and she was 14, and I was 17. We re-met at a mutual friend's birthday party. So started, like, hey, you're pretty cute. I kind of like this. We were at laser tag.
Oh,
and if you know Courtney and I, we're both, I would say, a little competitive, or like, she's a lot competitive. And so we were gunning for each other, and we're like, okay, I see you. You've got the skills. I see you. So we started talking. Come to find out, I had actually re-met her like multiple times already towards the end of middle school and in high school, but I was always with another girl at the time. So that's on me. That was my bad. Okay. But she would say, if she were here, because she has before when we tell the story, that I was very kind and respectful each time. I just only had eyes for the girl I was with. Okay. So.
And now is that girl kind of our enemy, or how are we doing?
Oh, we're fine.
Yeah, I love Co, so do I need to partner with her? Okay, we're good.
Yep. Nope. Co won the war.
Okay.
So we just started talking after that. When I was in high school, AOL Instant Messenger was big.
Okay.
And we had internet at my house, so we dialed in and got connected and started dating. The first official date I took her on was to a John McLaughlin concert at Anderson University. So pretty special. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. John McLaughlin, that name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's an Indiana guy.
Is he? Okay,
yep.
Good.
Yep.
Now, is your song come from him? Where did that?
It doesn't actually.
Oh.
But we'd grown up around him, and he had just put out an album, I think it was around then, called Indiana.
Okay.
That was super good. So we're like, hey, let's do this.
Love it.
Yep. It was good.
Good. And so we are at this point. So that started the dating relationship.
Yep.
Yeah. When did it become like, hey, I think this one's kind of heading for that forever?
Well,
place?
we're venturing into stories for another day land.
Yeah.
But shortly after we kind of met, my family went through some crazy stuff and kind of fell apart. And during some of those crazy moments, it just so happened that we were able to talk to each other about those things. And so there was some stuff going on that was like, dang, it felt like she was placed there for a reason in a really lonely and isolating season. And about a month after we started officially dating, per her parents and making sure, T's were crossed and I's were dotted, they moved to Texas. So that was a kind of a reality of we're either going to do this or we're not.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, I think this is, so we did long distance for like 3.5, almost 4 years.
All right. Okay. That's a long time.
Yeah. It was a long
young
time.
Life. All right. Good. And of course I know this story. It's amazing. And it's really interesting. One thing I talk a lot anytime I do marriage counseling is I talk about the area of our relationship that we spend the most time in of all of life is as friends.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so the fact that you guys were able to develop a friendship, because that's what distant does right there. I mean, you're going to you're going to figure out if you're good friends.
Yeah. I mean, you're either going to talk or you're not. Those are the only options.
Exactly.
Yep.
And, and so that's where a long distance could work. And it forces that definition of friendship. So with that is, that's cool for you guys because what an incredible foundation to that. I mean, because you're already at church camp, you're the gentle peaches, you're just killing it in the faith, obviously.
I mean, forged in the crucible of laser tag.
I know, exactly. So you just check some incredible boxes that every marriage needs to check.
Hey, you talk about shared experiences, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Right there, laser tag will do that.
So, hey, message out there. If you're looking for someone, laser tag.
Laser tag is a
solid place to meet people.
Up. Yes. Is there a laser tag in this area?
I think so. I haven't been.
Okay. I guess this has been a great pitch for that. But
sponsor?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that both of us, sponsor laser tag.
Laser tag sponsor?
Yeah. We'll take our $100 and we'll invest in some laser tag for people. This idea, you mentioned it kind of funny, but it's really true, is as we tell our stories, and I know we'll get deeper into it, but the fact that they're starting so young for us right now, both of us give countless talks on dating and these things to youth groups.
Yeah.
And so, it's one of those things that our story is uncommon.
Yeah.
And, and I get it. And I love it about it. There's a romantic side to what we talk about, but it is so uncommon that what can't happen is, somebody who's in a relationship, I met my person at 30. So we can't have that. No, you could have an amazing relationship. Yeah. So the core elements are still there, could be there. And if you're 16 watching this, you don't have to go out and hunt for your future wife or husband.
Right.
Let God do His work.
Just go trick-or-treating or laser tag.
Yeah, right? Exactly, right? And you're going to find it and be able to tell the story of grade school love, right?
Yeah.
So my daughters, we had to really protect them, but I would call it almost impossible because they watched it. They heard the stories, probably thousands of times. And so I think they longed for that story at some level. And damage might not be the word, but boy, it put some pressure on them that I wish they didn't have.
Sure.
Love's our story. I love you and Co's story. And so we get to celebrate that. Boy, but it shouldn't be, someone shouldn't strive after emulating that or evaluating their relationship based on it.
Well, I think neither of our stories are a story of like, this is how you get a good marriage. They're stories of God providing for the way we had needs.
Yeah.
And so the way our kids, the way whoever, like he knows us better than we do.
Yeah.
And so we can trust him to lead those things. I think you're right though. That's where like examples can sometimes create disappointing expectations where it's like, well, you know, that happened for them. It could happen. Well, maybe, but the point of it is that, you know, God did his thing and neither of us were like searching hard. We were just kind of as you go doing life and he made it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important. You know, it sounds so mature looking back at it. We weren't.
Not
right?
at all.
For the record,
Yeah.
This wasn't these great
Not at all.
old souls that knew forever.
No.
We're people that were walking out what was around us, and God did a good thing.
Yep.
And maybe not exclusively, but in spite of us, right? We're
Definitely.
young, dumb kids, but he was good. And again, I love your story. I love my story. So it never, say, oh, I'd do it differently. No, we walked it out. For me, it wasn't faith. That came later.
Yeah.
For you, there's faith playing a role in this for both you guys.
Yep.
But it's I love those stories.
Yeah. Yeah. And each story is different. As we were kind of saying, so like for me in that season when things really fell apart and got scattered, that relationship with her, which again, this is not the thing you want to say to student ministry, but it was really grounding. Like it was something that kind of stayed consistent and had, it was like a bit of a plumb line of like, hey, everything else in my life has changed. But this is one thing that feels like it stayed the same.
Yeah. Well, in God's goodness, I know Co, and she is such a stable, wise person.
Yep.
And I didn't know her at that time. I know her now, and so I would imagine at that time she would be considered an old soul. I bet you.
Mm-hmm.
That was just, and so I know your story, and I could see how God would use someone like her.
Yep.
To just be
Tame the wild child a little bit.
Well, there's that. That's a whole nother. We got so many tributes to our stories.
I know.
So that's cool, and I love that about you and her.
Yeah. We could just keep going and sharing other stories and stuff, but for those who might be listening who are, newer into marriage or thinking about marriage, what would you say from, your journey early on or your wisdom now looking back? And we've got a long way to go and a lot more to learn. But what would be a couple like bits of encouragement or wisdom or caution that you would share?
Yeah. One of them, because I do a lot of premarital counseling, right?
Yeah,
in my job. So there's a lot of stuff that are just kind of right there,
Yep.
So I would say this, one thing I talk about, and I referred to it already, is that friendship.
Yeah.
And I tell couples this, I said, you want to do a quick check on your relationship. How are you playing together?
Yep.
Because that's what friends do. You play together, you laugh together. Check that. What great friends do is they talk about dreams and fears and vision and those things. So you can watch your relationship. Are you playing together? And you can listen to your relationship. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
If you're talking about, the functions and duties of life that the partnership has brought together, the kids, jobs, and those things, well, there's a real problem. Mm-hmm. So you have to look at and listen to your relationship to make sure your friendship's there. And you tip the hand already. If you don't like what you see, you don't like what you hear, create shared experience.
Yeah.
That creates conversations, different conversations, and go do something together And if you're really in a crisis in your marriage, make it something different.
Yeah.
Right. Make it different because it's going to force you to talk, and those shared experience will forge deeper friendship. So that's one of those. So I'll let you comment on that, and then I've got a couple others.
Yeah, I would just say I fully agree. I would say figure out things you love to do together.
Yes.
Because it's so easy to just get in the rhythm of doing, just of life, because life is demanding. And especially, with kiddos and different things like that, or adult kids or whatever. I can't speak to that yet, but I know you can. Like, life continually fights to be full and busy. Yeah. So finding those ways to play, to have fun, and do that. I would say too, I don't know, a word of caution maybe. If you're hearing this and you're like, dang, maybe we're not good, I would just say maybe, but also every season in marriage is not equal. Yeah. There are different seasons. Seasons when you're first married, one of you has a career, both of you have a career, someone's unemployed, you're both unemployed, you start to have a family's turning into these are all super different seasons. And so, like, just like a healthy thing ebbs and flows, conversation in marriage will ebb and flow too. We just get to be the stewards of keeping that headed in a healthy direction. Yeah.
And that's I state in my counseling that the keys that God has given us for a healthy relationship is communication. So that fits right into what you're saying. Communication is critical. Yeah.
I'm really curious. I can't remember this story.
Oh.
I feel like maybe I remember, but what did you guys do for honeymoon, or did you do it later?
No, we were two dumb kids. We got married at, trying to think if we were 19 yet. I think we were just 19.
Courtney was 19.
Okay, so we got married at 19 in small town, Eastern Washington. Sandy's parents, gave us the keys to their Ford Bronco, right? That's the family vehicle, because all of our cars were beaters. I don't even know if I had a car. I don't think I did. I think I had a beat-up motorcycle at that time. Someone you want to give your daughter away. But anyhow, that's another story, right? Another one. So we jumped in a car in Eastern Washington, the Bronco, and drove to Victoria Island, or Victoria and Vancouver Island, Canada. So we went up into Canada, drove across Canada, got a ferry, went out there. And then one cool thing about that, then we took a ferry from Vancouver Island, and I'm trying to think of, I think Sandy's mom had a business trip one time, and we went to Seattle, but I'd never been there before. So a huge thing for us little small town kids.
Yeah.
But coming back, we came on a ferry through the San Juan Islands, which is really cool in our story. Some know it. We lived 15 years on Orcas Island, and we raised our kids there. Mm-hmm. So for my girls, that's home to them. That's when they look back, that's home. And so I would say it's the most formative place for our family was there. But I still remember going through there, looking around these islands, and I didn't even know they existed. Yeah. So that's a cool thing. But yeah, we drove over, stayed in, it's just so funny, because you're just broke, So we were just in bad hotels. The first hotel, I think we went to Dairy Queen that night, and then went to this hotel that had just a goofy, So that hotel. Then we went into Victoria, stayed in a hotel that, I thought I was going to get beat up because the room's walls are so thin that some big monster biker guy thought we were making all this racket because people in the room, and we're right next to that room, in the other room were having some raging party. And so he kept pounding on the wall, screaming, finally knocks on my door. He thought he was going to kill me, I think. I'm 19, and this guy's 10 feet tall, and, screaming and swearing and yelling at me, going to kill me. And I had to say, finally, luckily, I said, "It's not me, I promise, it's them." But the walls are so thin that the sound goes through. So anyhow, it was a great adventure. That was our honeymoon. How about, what was yours?
Co and I went to Gatlinburg in Tennessee.
Okay. What is
Yeah, we're not from here, so
yeah. Gatlinburg, like is that?
In fact, I've never been to Canada until a couple weeks ago.
Oh, welcome.
During staff retreat, so that's pretty exciting.
Gatlin, what's in Gatlin? I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, so Gatlinburg is kind of a little tourist spot in the Appalachian Mountains.
Okay.
And so there's a few like rides, but there's there's a lot of hiking, but there's some like touristy kind of spots with like Appalachian hiking vibes where you can buy gear or whatever. And then they've got some historical places, and it's a cool little vacation spot for people who aren't like leaving the Midwest area.
So how did you? I mean, do a lot of people in the area kind of do that? But that's a destination.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah. It's not crazy expensive. It's something a little different, and I mean, being in Indiana where everything is just flat and cornfields, it feels. Now out here, I've seen the real mountains.
You've seen mountains, right?
Yeah, but going in that how green it was, and the Appalachian Mountains, like I've never been into places like that. So anywho, we had a friend who had a cabin up in kind of a mountain little town, and we got to stay there. I say cabin, it was a big house, but it was made of logs, so they called it a cabin.
Cool cabin, I like it.
And Courtney's favorite food by far is barbecue. Okay. Ribs, pulled pork, whatever, and that is a great spot for that. Okay. So we did kind of a little barbecue tour, and we're always competing. So we had like a running game of mini golf that we, as far as I know, we still have. We've just decided we're never going to finish the game. Okay. That our whole lives are going to be this continuous mini golf competition, and we don't go very often.
Okay. Do you know, like, how's the record right now?
I think I'm ahead, but I can't remember this. I know she'll know, so I'll have to ask her.
Oh, you asked her, would she answer the same, right?
I think so. I don't know. She would correct me if I'm wrong. Right. But we just had a blast just playing. I mean, we were, I just turned 21. She was 19. We were just kids playing and being like, we're adults, I guess. So, driving around and going to restaurants that we wanted to go to, and tons of beef jerky, and just kind of played and watched shows in the evening, and it was super fun. We had waited that whole time long distance. We'd waited that long time just to be together, to be in the same place, and so that's really what that adventure was just doing like a few mild things, but being together. Yeah,
I love it. What's really interesting, those of you that know both of us, I've got more of a rural vibe than you.
True.
But your honeymoon sounds like Gatlinburg, barbecue, beef jerky. That sounds very rural.
It does.
And I'm going to Victoria, Canada. So, yeah.
You know what we should do?
What's that?
We should try each other's honeymoons.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. Gatlinburg. I'm going to look it up.
Yep.
Gatlinburg. Yep. Have you been to Victoria? Oh, dude.
See? This is what I'm saying.
Oh, it's kind of like, dude, going to London. It has a real English vibe.
Dang.
It's really cool.
That sounds great.
Yeah, there's this place, and it's called the Empress. And Empress, got to sponsor us, but it just feels so cool. I mean, you go there, and there's a wax museum. Oh, you want to hear a honeymoon story?
Of course.
Oh, good. Every time. This is Bad on Sandy. Love you, girl. So, let's go. Disposable cameras, same thing. So we got disposable cameras. And went to a wax museum, right? We're just country bumpkins. So, never seen a celebrity or anything, so we're going to this wax museum.
I've been waiting for this moment since we started the podcast. Courtney's calling. Hey, I'm on the podcast right now. You're now on the podcast.
Is that cool?
She said,
ask her who's the mini golf.
We have a question. Our lifelong game of mini golf, who's winning right now?
I'm down by 3 strokes.
She's down by 3 strokes.
Cole, come on. Come on.
She said, oh, yeah. We haven't played in a long time, so we were thinking of adding our disc golf scores to it, but we haven't made that decision yet. Hey, I'll call you back when we're done filming. Love you.
Go work on the game.
Bye.
Come on.
Hey, that was timely, though.
That was good.
She's
We
down
got
3 strokes.
Official answer. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you got to go into strict training. Victoria. So there's a wax museum. So
Wax
we go in there-
museum.
Yep. And, never been around celebrities. Well, they got all these wax figures of celebrities. Mickey Mantle. So cool. So we get the little disposable camera and take all these pictures. And then we're sitting out there, and I just can't wait to show all my rural friends all these cool, you've never seen this before. And it's like I'm really there with all these famous people. And Sandy messed up. It wasn't taking pictures. You had to do something. Remember those things you had to go wind them a whole bunch of times? There was something goofy, and that wasn't done.
No.
So we did not get that. So one of those memories. I need to go back and go. And it's the Mickey Mantle one I really wanted to go stand next.
Yep.
And so Babe Ruth is there, I believe. So anyhow.
So you heard the highlight, the Instagram version of the honeymoon. The other side of it is that we totally ran out of money while we were there.
Oh, no.
And so we were, it was the day we were going home. We were eating breakfast, and we realized that we were like, uh-oh. We were toast. I didn't know how we were going to pay for the breakfast that we were eating.
I like this.
And I think how it happened is a table next to us overheard us talking about it. Because if you know Co and I, when we communicate, it's incredibly direct. So we're not beating around the bush. Yeah. It's like, we have no dollars. How are we going to do this and pay for gas? One of the tables next to us paid for our meal. And that allowed us to have just enough to have enough gas to get home.
I tell you what, that actually adds to the romantic.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
Not at the moment. I'm sure that was so stressful.
Well, the reality of me with details is tough.
Oh yeah, I could see that. I know you too well, so I could see this, right?
Yep. Yeah,
and,
we're anything you've ever wanted, spend it all.
Yeah,
it's all gone.
Yeah, it's all gone. Okay, we did it. Yeah. And then they're coming to fix it.
Exactly.
I love that. That's good. Well, I love that. I love you guys' relationship. We had one of the great seasons in North Shore for us is when you and your family lived with us.
Yep.
So, in fact, I was just thinking about this the other day. We would get the kids to bed, you guys would, and we'd just sit in the living room, the four of us, and just
laugh.
Just be friends.
Yep.
And it really is some of the highlights of my time at North Shore. Of you guys, I love you guys, love your relationship, love how you do family. Yeah. And it was a golden phase of our time. So
it was cool. Super fun. We called it the farm.
The farm, yeah. Well, you named because I was gone and they came and hooked the internet up and Josh named it the farm. Yeah. It's still called the farm. Everything's the farm.
Is.
And you set the password, still the password. So
yes.
I think of you often.
That's funny. Hey, I'm proud of you for not saying your Wi-Fi password on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It felt close.
Yeah, everyone wants it, right?
Well, episode 10, this has been such a fun journey so far. Scott and I are learning and growing and figuring out how to keep making this a better experience and getting better at what we do too, is we talk about stuff, but as Scott said, at the heart of it, we just want to have open, honest, real conversation about real stuff. And so, touching on a few things when it comes to our stories in marriages, I think that'd be a really cool follow-up episode down the line to have a guest and hear some other stories, but maybe some expertise in some areas that we don't have to process as well. But you're about to head out on sabbatical.
Yes.
So we will, I speak for me and the listeners, we'll be praying for you guys while you're out. Excited for your return and excited to have some guests on the next few episodes. So stay tuned in. If you've got questions, as always, you can email them out to us one more time. It's morethansunday@northshorechristian.org. We love you guys, and we'll see you soon.
Great. Love you guys. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the More Than Sunday podcast. The easiest way to stay connected with us is to follow or subscribe on whatever podcast platform you are using. If this episode was impactful for you, leave a comment or review below. We would love to hear from you. This podcast is hosted by Northshore Christian Church. We have services in Everett at 8:30 and 10:30 a.m. and would love to see you there.